The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the humid July dusk, and there he was, Rowan Hale, my brother's best friend since we were kids, scraping knees on the gravel roads of Haven's Edge, Maine, striding across the backyard in those goddamn tight black shorts that hugged his thighs like they were painted on. Sweat glistened on his tanned skin from the pickup game they'd just finished, and he caught my stare from the porch swing where I sat nursing a warm beer, his grin splitting wide and wicked, like he knew exactly what those shorts were doing to me. "What's the matter, Elias? Cat got your tongue? Or is it these bad boys?" he said, flexing one leg with a laugh that echoed off the clapboard house. But his eyes, those deep blue eyes, lingered a beat too long, saying everything my pounding heart couldn't admit. I choked on my beer, the foam burning my throat as heat flooded my face. Not from the summer stickiness, but from the way his smile twisted something deep inside me, a secret I'd buried under layers of flannel and denial since high school. Back then, Haven's Edge was all lobster traps and lighthouse beacons, a town where boys like me learned to fish before we learned to feel, and secrets like mine stayed sunk in the bay. But Rowan? He'd always been the spark, wild, unapologetic, the one who dragged my brother Caleb into midnight bonfires and daredevil cliff jumps, while I watched from the shadows, sketching waves in my notebook, wondering why my chest tightened every time he stripped off his shirt after a swim. Now, at 22, with Caleb home from college and Rowan crashing at our place for the summer, that old ache was clawing its way back up, sharper than ever. Caleb burst out the back door then, towel slung over his shoulder, oblivious as always, clapping Rowan on the back hard enough to make those shorts ride up another inch. "Dude, you killed it out there. Elias, you should have joined. Stop hiding like a hermit." His voice was all easy brotherly ribbing, the kind that had kept us close through Dad's long-haul trucking shifts and Mom's quiet evenings knitting by the wood stove. Caleb was the golden one, broad-shouldered, quick with a joke, the town quarterback who'd gone off to Yukon on a partial ride, leaving me to man the family bait shop and dream of escaping this salt-crusted cage. I forced a grin, muttering something about inventory, but my eyes flicked back to Rowan, who was stretching now, arms overhead, the hem of his tank top lifting to reveal a trail of dark hair dipping south. He caught me again, that smile flickering, not mocking this time, but soft, almost inviting, like he was daring me to dive in. Dinner that night was the usual chaos. Mom's clam chowder steaming on the scarred oak table, Dad grumbling about fuel prices over his third helping, Caleb recounting the game with exaggerated flair while Rowan nodded along, stealing fries from his plate. Our house sat on the edge of town, a squat two-story with peeling blue paint and a porch that creaked under the weight of too many summers. Haven's Edge wasn't much, 500 souls clustered around the harbor, where foghorns wailed like lost souls, and the air smelled of brine and regret. But it was home, the kind that wrapped around you tight, even when you wanted to bolt. I sat across from Rowan, my knee bouncing under the table, trying to focus on Mom's questions about the shop. "Business picking up, Elias? Tourists are late this year." Her voice was soft, laced with that Maine drawl, her graying hair pulled into a loose bun. She'd always seemed too much, the way I'd linger in the doorway during Caleb's parties, nursing a soda while the others got rowdy, but she never pushed. Dad just chewed, his calloused hands dwarfing his spoon, eyes on the Bruins game flickering in the living room. "Yeah, Ma. A few city folks asking for custom lures. Lies, mostly. The shop was scraping by, and my real days were spent sketching designs for graphic novels I'd never finish, stories of boys who ran from small towns and found themselves in neon-lit cities." Rowan's foot brushed mine under the table, accidental, probably, and I jerked back like I'd been shocked, spilling chowder down my chin. Laughter erupted, Caleb's loudest, but Rowan's gaze met mine over the rim of his glass, steady and unreadable, that smile gone but the echo of it burning in my gut. After dishes, the three of us ended up on the porch, beers in hand, the fireflies blinking like faulty stars against the deepening indigo sky. Caleb sprawled in the old rocker, scrolling his phone for playlists, while Rowan leaned against the railing, those shorts still a crime against my sanity. "Remember that time we snuck into the old cannery?" Caleb said, voice nostalgic. Rowan dared me to jump from the roof. Elias chickened out, as usual. I rolled my eyes, but the memory stung. The rusted beams, the harbor lights winking below, Rowan's hand steadying me on the ladder, his breath warm on my neck. "Someone had to make sure you idiots didn't die." Rowan chuckled, low and throaty, turning to face the water. The moon was rising, silvering the waves, and for a moment, The world narrowed to the curve of his jaw, the way his fingers drummed the rail. I wanted to ask why he looked at me like that sometimes, like I was the only one in the room worth seeing, but the words stuck, tangled in the fear that had haunted me since puberty. What if saying it out loud made everything shatter? The conversation drifted to college tales, Caleb's frat pranks, Rowan's art major at Portland State, where he was supposedly finding himself, with charcoal sketches and late-night bar hops. Portland's wild, man, Rowan said, eyes on me. People there. They don't hide who they are. The words hung heavy, laced with something unspoken, and Caleb snorted, oblivious. Yeah, well, don't corrupt my little bro. Elias is too pure for that scene. Pure. The word twisted like a knife. I'd dated girls in high school, awkward fumblings at dances, a summer fling with Sarah from the diner that ended in polite ghosting. But it had always felt scripted, like lines from a play I didn't write. Nights alone in my room above the shop, door locked, I'd let my mind wander to forbidden edges, strong hands, stubble against skin, the press of a body that matched mine. And too often, that body had Rowan's face. As the night cooled, Caleb yawned and headed inside, muttering about an early fishing charter. Rowan lingered, lighting a cigarette, the bad habit he'd picked up in the city, and offering me one. I shook my head, but stayed, the smoke curling between us like a question. You okay, Eli? He asked, using the nickname no one else dared, his voice dropping low. The porch light buzzed overhead, casting shadows that danced across his face. Yeah, just. Summer's weird this year. Lame, but true. With Caleb back, the house felt alive again, but Rowan's presence turned it electric, every glance a spark. He exhaled slowly, watching me through the haze. Weird how? I shrugged, heart hammering. Like everything's on the edge of changing. You know, his smile returned then, slow and knowing. The kind that said he saw right through me. The tight coil of want, the fear of unraveling. He flicked the bud into the yard, stepping closer, close enough I could smell the tobacco and sea salt on him. Change isn't always bad, Elias. Sometimes it's the only thing that feels real. His hand brushed my arm. Light, fleeting, and then he was gone, slipping inside with a casual night, leaving me on the swing, breath ragged, the world tilting under me like the deck of a storm-tossed boat. That night, sleep came in fits, dreams tangled with flashes of his grin, his thighs flexing in those shorts, and a whisper in my ear that sounded too much like my name. The next morning dawned sticky and gray, the kind of Maine summer day where the fog clings like a second skin. I was elbow-deep in bait buckets at the shop, Kane's bait and tackle, a clabbered shack crammed with hooks, lines, and the faint rod of herring, when the bell above the door jingled. Rowan sauntered in, still in those shorts, but with a loose Henley that did nothing to hide the lean muscle of his arms. Caleb was off on a charter with Dad, leaving the day wide open and my nerves frayed. Morning, boss, he drawled, hopping onto the counter, legs swinging. Tourists milled outside, poking at lobster buoys in the display case. But in here, it was just us, the hum of the ancient fridge the only witness. Need help? Or are you going to make me beg? I wiped my hands on my apron, trying to ignore how his knee brushed mine as I restocked shelves. You offering, or just here to distract? The words slipped out sharper than intended, laced with the frustration I'd nursed all night. He tilted his head, that smile playing at his lips again, but his eyes were serious now, searching. Distract? Nah, I'm here for the company. He slid off the counter, grabbing a coil of line to untangle, his fingers deft and sure. We worked in companionable silence for a while, the rhythm of it soothing, the snick of scissors, the slap of rubber gloves. But tension simmered, unspoken, every accidental touch a jolt. When a lull hit, he leaned against the back wall, arms crossed. So what's eating you, Eli? You've been weird since last night. I froze, mid-knot, the line slipping from my fingers. Weird. If only he knew. Nothing. Just thinking about. Stuff. Vague, cowardly. He stepped closer, the space between us shrinking, his scent, clean sweat and cedar cologne, flooding my senses. Stuff like what? Portland? Or something closer to home? My pulse thundered. How much did he guess? The air thickened, charged, and before I could bolt, he reached out, thumb brushing a smudge of salt from my cheek. Time stuttered, the roughness of his skin, the warmth blooming under it, and I didn't pull away. Rowan. My voice cracked, a plea and a warning. He didn't move his hand, eyes locking on mine, blue as the bay in storm season. Tell me to stop, and I will. But I couldn't. the words dissolving on my tongue as he leaned in, lips grazing my jaw, soft and tentative. Fire exploded through me, years of pent-up longing crashing like waves on the rocks. I turned into it, our mouths meeting clumsy and desperate, his hands fisting my shirt, mine tangling in his hair. The kiss deepened, hungry, his body pressing me back against the shelves, cans rattling. It was everything I'd imagined in stolen moments. Firm, yielding, tasting of mint and risk. But reality sliced through. The shop window, the town beyond, Caleb's face flashing in my mind. I broke away, gasping, chest heaving. We can't. Caleb. Rowan's forehead rested against mine, breath ragged. Fuck Caleb. This is about us. Us. The word hung, terrifying and thrilling. But guilt clawed in, sharp as fishhooks. I pushed him back gently, straightening my shirt, the world snapping back into focus. Not here. Not like this. He nodded, jaw tight, but the hurt in his eyes gutted me. Okay, but don't run from it, Eli. Not from me. He left then, the bell jingling like an accusation, and I sank to the floor behind the counter, head in hands, the taste of him lingering like salt on my lips. The afternoon dragged, every customer's glance feeling like judgment. By closing, the fog had burned off, leaving the harbor glittering under a reluctant sun. I locked up, mind a whirlwind, and headed home on foot, the crunch of gravel under my boots the only sound. Haven's Edge unfolded around me, the weathered shacks with buoys dangling like talismans, the distant cry of gulls, the faint strum of a fiddle from O'Malley's pub. This town had shaped me, its tides pulling at secrets I couldn't drown. Caleb was waiting on the porch when I got there, cooler of beers at his feet, Rowan nowhere in sight. Where you been, bro? Rowan bailed on cards, said something about needing space. His tone was light, but his eyes narrowed, probing. Guilt twisted tighter. Shop ran long. What's up? He cracked a beer, handing it over. Just talk. You seem off. Everything good with you? Brotherly concern, pure as the chowder mom made. I nodded, throat tight, and we sat in silence, watching the sunset bleed red across the water. Caleb had always been my anchor, the one who'd punched the town bully for calling me four eyes in grade school, who'd cover for me when I skipped class to draw. Betraying that, for a kiss that might ruin everything, felt like treason. Night fell heavy, stars pricking the velvet sky. Rowan didn't come down from the guest room, and I lay awake, replaying the press of his body, the way he'd whispered my name like a prayer. Dawn brought rain, sheets of it lashing the windows, turning the roads to mud. Caleb and Dad headed out anyway, rain gear slicking as they boarded the boat for a commercial run. Rowan appeared in the kitchen as I brewed coffee, hair damp from a shower, wearing joggers that hung low on his hips. No shorts today, just raw vulnerability in his stance. Morning, he said, voice rough. I poured him a mug, our fingers brushing, electricity sparking anew. About yesterday. Don't. I cut him off, but softer than intended. Mom was out at her shift at the library, leaving the house echoing. He set the mug down, stepping into my space. I'm not sorry, Eli. I've wanted that since. God, since the cannery. Watching you sketch by the fire, all quiet intensity. You think I didn't notice? My breath hitched. You're Caleb's best friend. It's a line we can't cross. But even as I said it, my body leaned toward him, traitorous. He cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheeks. Lines are for maps, not hearts. Tell me you don't feel it too. I did feel it, deep, undeniable, a current pulling me under. Our kiss this time was slower, exploratory, rain pattering a rhythm outside as his hands mapped my back, my waist. We stumbled to the couch, clothes shedding like old skin, his mouth on my neck, my fingers tracing the scars from cliff jumps on his ribs. It was revelation, skin on skin, gasps mingling, the world reduced to the slide of sweat and whispered needs. After, we lay tangled, his head on my chest, the storm easing to drizzle. This doesn't have to end, he murmured, tracing patterns on my arm. I wanted to believe him, but doubt whispered. Haven's Edge didn't forgive deviations. Still, in that bubble, with his heartbeat sinking mine, I let myself dream of Portland, of us, of a life unscripted. But reality intruded with Caleb's truck rumbling up the drive, early return from rough seas. We scrambled, dressing in frenzy, Rowan slipping upstairs as I smoothed the cushions. Caleb burst in, soaked and grinning, none the wiser. Missed the big one, had to turn back. Where's Rowan? Shower, I think. Lie came easy, sickening me. That night, over meatloaf, tension coiled tight, Rowan's foot nudging mine under the table, a secret code, while Caleb rambled about the catch. Mom watched us all, her quiet gaze missing nothing, but she said only, "Pass the rolls, dear." Days blurred into a stolen rhythm. Mornings at the shop with lingering touches, afternoons hiking the cliffs where we'd confess fragments, his coming out in Portland, the family fallout, my buried sketches of men who looked too much like him. Evenings, we'd sneak glances across the dinner table, Caleb's laughter a fragile bridge. But cracks formed. One night, after a bonfire on the beach, sparks flying into the dark, bottles clinking, Caleb pulled me aside. "You and Rowan seem tight lately. What's that about?" My stomach dropped. "Just hanging." "What?" He shrugged, but suspicion flickered. "Dunno. He's been distracted. Like he's got a secret." The word landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading. The breaking point came mid-August, heat wave breaking with thunder. We'd driven to Blackwood Cove, a secluded beach where pines met surf, claiming a guy's trip to Caleb. But once there, with him napping in the truck after a cooler too many, Rowan and I slipped into the dunes, urgency building like the storm clouds. It was reckless, his hands urgent, my back against salt grass, the ocean roaring approval. We crested together, breathless, laughing in the afterglow. Then, Caleb's voice, sharp as shattered glass. "What the fuck?" He stood at the dune's crest, face pale, betrayal carving deep lines. Rowan froze, zipping up, while I scrambled, words failing. "Caleb, wait. You? With him?" Disgust twisted his features, not just shock, but revulsion, the brother I knew fracturing before me. He lunged, fist connecting with Rowan's jaw in a sickening crack. "You piece of shit, teasing my brother?" He's straight, man. Straight. Blood trickled from Rowan's lip, but he didn't fight back, eyes pleading. "Caleb, it's not like that. Elias. He feels it too." The admission hung, exposing me raw. Caleb whirled on me, eyes wild. "You? All this time? God. Eli, why didn't you say? I thought. Fuck, I trusted you both." Rain started then, fat drops mixing with tears I hadn't realized were falling. I didn't know how. I was scared. Truth spilled, jagged. He backed away, shaking his head. "Scared? Of what, losing this?" He gestured at the cove, the town beyond. "You're my brother. But this, it's wrong. Sneaking around like thieves." He stormed to the truck, engine roaring to life, leaving us in the downpour. Rowan reached for me, but I flinched, the weight of it crushing. "He'll come around," Rowan said, voice breaking. But doubt not. Haven's edge ran on blood ties, and I'd severed mine. The drive home was silent agony, Rowan's knuckles white on the wheel, my shirt clinging cold. Mom was in the kitchen when we dragged in, sensing the fracture. "Boys, what happened?" Caleb's door slammed upstairs, and I couldn't speak, just collapsed at the table, Rowan's hand on my shoulder a lifeline. That night, Caleb confronted Dad, voices rising through the floorboards, words like disgrace and family slicing the air. Mom knocked on my door later, sitting on the bed's edge, her hand cool on mine. "Oh, Eli, why carry it alone?" Her eyes held no judgment, only sorrow for the boy she'd watched grow quiet. Love isn't a sin. It's the hardest truth. But Caleb wouldn't hear it. Days turned cold, him avoiding us, crashing at a buddy's. Rowan packed for Portland early, his duffel by the door like an accusation. "Come with me," he urged one gray morning, rain streaking the windows. "We can start over, no hiding." I wanted to, God, the pull of it, freedom in his arms. But roots ran deep, twisted. "Caleb, I can't just leave." Hurt flashed in his eyes, that smile I loved cracking. "Then what? Pretend this didn't happen?" "I love you, Elias. Too much to half-live." "Love," said aloud, it anchored and terrified. We clung one last time on the porch, kiss salt tinged with goodbye, his shorts packed away but the memory of his tease etched forever. He drove off at dawn, taillights fading into mist, leaving a hollow in my chest. Fall crept in, leaves turning crimson as wounds. Caleb returned grudgingly, words sparse, but fishing trips resumed, silent at first, then thawing with shared casts into the bay. I overreacted, he admitted one dusk, rod jerking. "Seeing you too. It blindsided me. But you're still my brother. That doesn't change." Tears pricked, relief flooding. "I'm sorry. For the secrets." He nodded, clapping my shoulder. "Just be honest next time. With all of us." Progress, fragile as sea glass. Months later, Portland called. A sketchbook full, applications sent. Rowan's texts lit my phone. "Miss your hazel eyes. Doors open. I stood on the pier one foggy eve, wind whipping, the same spot from that first charged night. Haven's edge stretched behind, beloved and binding, but ahead, waves endless, promising. I texted back, on my way, no more lines. The smile in my reply, his, echoing in my soul, teasing, true, impossible to ignore. Freedom wasn't escape, it was choosing the current, diving deep, emerging whole.